It's Sunday, November 28th, 2021. This is All About Your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Hope you had a great holiday, Thanksgiving on Thursday. Enjoyed a relaxed Black Friday, hopefully, as we're going to talk about here in a second. Supported your small businesses on Saturday, and today on Sunday, finding some time to relax. Let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And as you can see down below, there are a number of articles we want to cover this week, so let's get to them. Some positive news coming out from the economy. First and foremost, the recovery appears to be accelerating. We see wages, we see spending both growing over the last month, so that's a positive. We see wages ticking up just a little bit and spending going up as well, despite this conversation about inflation, which is, we know, very real. We can see the prices going up. We've talked about supply chain issues in the past. We'll see if this goes to continue to slow the consumer down some, or if consumers trudge through it going into the holiday season and still spend money that they have been saving over the last year with everything going on. One of the things that I think is interesting is I think sometimes things become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Inflation, again, is very real. We can look at gas prices, which we'll talk about in a moment, and other prices being higher. But I also wonder if sometimes if we weren't throwing this in people's faces, if they would not react the same way as far as being afraid of what inflation might be. Yes, they would notice that prices are going up, but if their wages are going up as well, it may not be as big of an increase to them, and they might be okay with it. But if they're being told inflation's out of control and things are going to be bad, they might start to believe it. They might start to change their spending, which would slow things down, and then we never know which is the true cause. And I think that's always some of the things that we can look back over time and saying, was it really this economic data that caused X event, or was it the belief that the economic data was going to cause the event, which therefore changed behavior, which therefore caused the event? So we'll never know, but it's one of those things I just wish that sometimes we would just state what it is and then move on and not spend a lot of time on it, having scary headlines and driving fear, because again, that's what the media is there to do, is to get clicks, to sell advertising, and they know that those headlines will get people to click and watch. But I don't necessarily know if it's always in the best interest of the reader or the consumer of that content. So a little bit of a soapbox or a side tangent there, but just one of those things I can't help but think about from time to time is, will inflation really cause the problems, or will belief that inflation will cause the problems really be the cause of the problems? We'll have to see. Riddle me this. Next, go to jobless claims. We talk about jobs all the time. Jobless claims hit a 52-year low. So there was 199,000 after adjusted for seasonality jobless claims over the last week, which is the lowest since 1969. So that obviously is a good thing. It could just be an anomaly. It could be the adjustments maybe made it up. Tons of things that could come back in a couple of weeks and be surprised. We've had this before where jobless claims go down and then we get a surprise spike in the following week. So nonetheless, it's a good sign. We'll see what that means, and hopefully that's a good thing for wages continuing to go up as well. Again, supply and demand. If there's not enough people out there looking for jobs because they're already employed, then those employers who are wanting to upgrade their staff or hire to grow will need to probably pay wages to pull people away from jobs that they're currently in. So it's a good sign. Let's head over to our friends over at the Fed. President Biden nominated Jerome Powell again for Fed Reserve Chairman. And you'll have people who don't like that. You'll have people who love it. For me, I just want to have some consistency. So I think that Jerome Powell has done a good job navigating us through a once-in-a-lifetime, hopefully, event. There's no playbook for how this is done. Could there be some changes? Probably. But a crisis was avoided, which is a good thing for all of us, for the most part. So I would love to see him stay on and be able to get through all of this. And then if we need to have a change of direction after the fact, go ahead. But I don't really love to see a change, even if it's in sports. Changing in the middle of a crisis and a major event, changing to leadership is not always the best thing. Sometimes it is, but we never know. And I think that there's a little bit of comfort knowing we know what we're going to get from Powell as we continue to work through all these variants and other things that are popping up and getting back to a new normal of a life, if you will. So we'll have to pay attention to there, but I would guess that that's going to go through and have no issues. We'll talk about oil. So I mentioned that earlier. We're going to talk about prices, but on Friday, oil and stocks had a not so good day, for lack of a better official term. Now, one day does not make a market. One day does not take away from the great run that the stock market had this day, but we had a big reaction to the newest variant of COVID that is floating around right now. and the market sold off 2.5% if you're looking at the Dow Jones. Oil dropped as well. But one thing to point out is this is not to minimize what happened on Friday, but it was a low volume day, meaning there were not a lot of shares that were traded. Think about Friday was a half day. It was the day after Thanksgiving. Not as many people on Wall Street trading, so when volume is not as great, meaning fewer shares are being traded throughout the day, it's easier to have bigger price movements. Doesn't take away from the news, doesn't take away from the reaction of the market. What we saw in the market were those stocks that would be bad if we had a shutdown sold off. Those stocks that would be good in a shutdown did okay, and it was just a reaction to some news. A little bit of an overreaction, I would guess, or I would say, only because this is not the first variant we've had. Delta was there, everything ended up being okay, and just to kind of react to the way that they did, sell off is not necessarily the best thing for an investor like you and I to do. So staying the course, sticking with your plan, remembering what we've been through over the last couple of years and how staying with your investment policy statement, staying with your financial plan was the best course of action in hindsight, and I believe it will continue to be the best course of action going forward. So if anything, there are a lot of bad Black Friday sale jokes about the stock market on Friday, crypto markets as well. So that was what happened, but there's an article in there about the market selling off on Friday and oil doing the same thing. Speaking of oil, U.S. is going to be tapping the reserves along with other countries to try to increase the supply to maybe bring a little bit of a relief to the pressure on gas prices. Here in Indiana, they're $3.50 a gallon, numbers we haven't seen for a long time. Gas is up 66% from last year, so we talk about inflation. It's not apples to apples. Last year this time we weren't driving as much, so there was not as much need. And then you have the supply that could be manipulated and changed to kind of bring more on. Bring more to the market to be able to use, which will bring prices down. So tapping reserves will hopefully bring some relief to the gas prices that we're seeing, which will be a good thing for everybody. But it's just interesting that there are countries coordinating together to kind of relieve some of that stress from the consumer. And finally, speaking of consumer, Black Friday, I mentioned that earlier, was different this year. I tweeted out on my way into the office to record this week's episode of The Pursuit, which you should definitely check out. I noticed that Target and some of the other stores along my way, the parking lots were not full. They weren't empty, but by no means were they full. There were no lines at any of the stores. It just looked like a normal day of business, which I actually think is a good thing. Black Friday is one of the ugliest days in America when we see people going crazy over deals and material things, pushing people, fighting people, stealing from each other, and it's just not a good look for us. So to not see any of those videos and not see that craziness was a positive. A lot of people did shopping online, and we talked about it earlier this fall with supply chain. I think a lot of people, myself included, did a lot of Christmas shopping way before. So our Christmas shopping here has been done for well over a month that maybe we missed out on Black Friday deals, but if you do the real research, you realize Black Friday deals aren't as great as you think they are, and there's better deals throughout the course of the year. So we didn't have to go mess with any of that, and I think more people did that or they just stayed home and shopped. I will say that from what I could see, Small Business Saturday was a massive success for small businesses, at least around here, which is a good thing to see as well. But if one of the things coming out of COVID is Black Friday, it's still a big day for shopping, but it's more online and less people going out and less people having to work early hours. Think about before COVID, we had stores opening up Thanksgiving evening, pulling people away from their families to have these pre-Black Friday sales. So if Black Friday is minimized, that is a positive in my eye because, again, it's not our finest day as consumers and Americans. So that's it for this week's Week in Reviews. I told you we had a number of them, but some important things to cover. Again, things continue to look pretty good for the economy and moving forward. We'll have to see what this next variant does and what the reactions are to there. And we'll continue to talk about it week to week. So with that, have a great rest of your Sunday. If you're watching this on YouTube, head on to allaboutyourbbenjamins.com to check out the mixtape. If you are watching this on the blog, head on over to YouTube and make sure you subscribe to the channel. More videos coming out every Friday. There will be a new episode of The Pursuit. That will go live on the podcast immediately. I record at 9 a.m. I publish it right away. And then the following Wednesday, the video version of it will be up. So be sure to follow along with that if you're interested in this concept of pursuing your passions and putting your finances in line with those values and passions that you have. Something I'm really enjoying. So with that, Silas comes in. That means it's time to go. Have a great rest of the Sunday, and we'll see you all in the next episode.